I'm Jamil. This is a boy named Jamil. Welcome back to a new video. So I got asked a couple of questions in my last video that I want to answer in this video. And the first question is someone asked why I'm wearing a hoodie. I wear this hoodie because it provides like an extra level of comfort. I have really debilitating crippling social anxiety, and it just helps to talk to the camera this way, to put myself onto the internet. The person who asked this question insinuated that I was wearing it because I couldn't pay my heating bill. And then someone else, then joined in and insinuated that I couldn't pay my heating bill because I had spent all of my money on lenses. Not the case. It is just a good old-fashioned mental illness. So question asked, question answered. The second question I got asked was someone in the comments asked if I could, explain how I get my photos to look like they're AI generated. I don't know if that question was asked in good faith or not, but I thought that it was a good kind of way to get into this kind of conversation, where I'm continuing this series where I am answering questions that is geared towards new photographers. And so if you are a seasoned photographer, a seasoned vet, go ahead and skip this video. Hopefully, I hope that you would go and watch another one of my videos, but whatever. Or, stay here and then let me know all of the things that I got wrong, because that seems to be a thing that people do on the internet. Everyone is welcome. All right. So with all of that being said, again, this is the type of video that I wish I could have found when I was a new photographer. And so this is just going to be, let me first say that I don't know if I can answer that question or not. How I make my photos look the way that I make them look. But what I can do is give some tips that I have picked up, over my photography journey from other photographers that I look up to, that I think about all the time when I am making the photos that I make. And hopefully these tips and this experience, you'll find some value in that. And so let's get into it. So the first tip that I want to talk about or that I want to give is I want to kind of dispel the myth. Your gear does matter, but probably not in the way that you think it does. So let's start off by saying this. I shoot with a, $3,500 A7R4. I also shoot with a $2,000 50 millimeter and a $1,800 85 millimeter G Master lenses. Why do I shoot with this camera? Because I know this camera. I've been shooting with this camera for 3.5 years now. I have, programmed this camera to do all of the things that I need this camera to do to make the photos that I need them to make. I've customized every button. I know what every button does. And at the stroke of a finger of a button, I can get, this camera to do what I need it to do. I never, ever go into the menu system of this camera, ever. I mean that. This is not hyperbole, ever. And so I say all of that before I get into that. 50 millimeters as a focal length when I'm shooting street or portraits, I don't need to, take a photo, see what it looks like, and then, readjust anything. I know what it's like to make a 50 millimeter photo. I know what that looks like in my brain. I know what an 85 millimeter portrait looks like. Again, I know what that looks like in my brain. I say all of that to say, the gear that you have to know it inside out. The A7R4 is not the newest Sony high-resolution camera that's out on the market now. But the camera that I make these videos with, the A7 IV, is the newest hybrid camera that Sony, has out on the market. I don't use this camera, the newer camera, because it's not the camera that I know the most. It's not the camera that I know in and out the way I know this A7R4. And so I say all of that to say, just whether you're shooting with $7,000 worth of camera equipment or you're shooting with your smartphone, you have to know your equipment. That's the most important thing. I'm always going to advocate for anybody who asks me to go out and buy the camera that's the most expensive camera that they can afford. I think that you should buy the best equipment. I am not one of those people that's just like your cell phone's the best camera that you have because it's always on you. No, go get the photo gear that's gonna give you the confidence to make your best photos. But once you have that gear, you have to learn it inside out. You got to know it. I don't shoot other camera systems. I don't buy other camera systems because this is the camera system I know. So I know that whenever I get an A7R5 or an A7R6, if I just take everything that I know from this camera, program it to the new camera, that camera's going to do what I need it to do because I've spent the time learning the gear. So learn your gear. Gear's important, but not in the way that you probably think. Learn your gear. The second tip that I want to give is maybe another one that's cliche, or maybe you've heard this, but I hear it all the time because it's from a person that I look up to. James Pappas always says, you have to make photos about things rather than making photos of things. And so just to kind of give you guys a visual representation of what that looks like, I'm going to put two photos up. The first photo that I'm going to put up is this photo of this woman in this coffee shop, right? This is a photo of a person. There's no mistaking that. I saw the person. I took the photo. This is a photo of a person. Now, it's not composed great, right? There's a second person in this photo. I don't know what she's doing. You can tell that this is probably older photography gear. You can tell that by, the noise and the crappy bokeh. And then the white balance is off. It's noisy. This is just a bad photo all around. But what I want to illustrate here is that this is a photo of a person. These people are obviously talking to someone. There's obviously something happening in this photo other than just this person being in the photo. This is a photo of a person. But I want to point to the second photo, which is probably the photo that the person was talking about that looks AI generated. And here's a photo. This is a really good photo. And right away, you can kind of feel what I'm talking about. Yes, I took my camera and I made this person, this woman, the subject of this photo. But right immediately, we can tell that there's a lot more happening. We can tell that she's probably helping this gentleman. She's probably answering a question. This is less a photo of this woman and more a photo about this woman working at this deli counter. You get a good visualization of what's going on in the background, right? We're at this kind of market. There's a lot of things happening. There's another kind of pizza place in the background. You can build a story off of this photo. And that's the difference between making a photo of someone and making a photo about someone. And I think that that's the biggest difference between these two photos. And when I think about the advice that I've taken from James Pappas, I feel like these photos kind of really illustrate that point to the max. Make photos about people or about things, not photos of things. My third kind of tip that I want to give is dispelling another myth, and that is like, no, you can't fix it in post. You can't. One of the things that I have been humbled by and surprised by in my photography journey is that people will ask me to look at their photos and kind of let them know like how they can make it better, or look at them and ask me what do I think. I'm humbled by that. If you're someone watching this and you've asked me to do that, I want you to know that, man, I'm humbled by that. And one of the things that I find is that people will kind of over process or over edit a photo for two reasons. One, it's a bad photo, and we'll get to a conversation about bad photos. And secondly, it's not a very interesting photo. And you're never gonna change those two things by over editing a photo. I've been guilty of that in my career also. It's something that I've learned over time. And again, I want to show you guys something, through an illustration. And again, this is a photo that I think is good. This is a photo that people have told me that they think is good. So let's say, this is a good photo. I want to show you guys the original of this photo, right? And this is what that original looks like. As you can see, I have left a lot of the elements of this photo the way that I made it in camera. It was an interesting photo because it told a story. You can see that it's already got the warm oranges in it. You can see that it already has those highlights that I just pumped some teal into. For the most part, I left it the way that it was. It was the photo before it, went into the edit. And so that's one of the things that I always try to tell people is, look, your photo's good and or interesting before the edit. Get it right in camera. And just to further illustrate that, I want to show you guys a couple more photos here on screen of 3 other photos that I took on that same day, where you can see that if I posted these photos in like a group or a series, so one of the things that someone could say is it's like, oh, he edited these photos to look like each other, or he edited them the same. But the reality is, like, I got all of these photos, in camera. And so there's very little editing. And the reason that they all look alike is because that's what it looked like, in this little market. This is what it looks like, and very little editing, a little bit of teal and orange. I'll admit to that to kind of, spark a little bit of interest. But for the most part, these are the photos. So less is more in edits. And you can't always fix it. You can remove things, right? A lint here, a flyaway here, flyaway hair there. You can fix those kind of things in the edit, but no amount of editing is going to make a bad photo or an uninteresting photo good or interesting. Hey, if you're watching this video and you feel like you're getting some value out of it, it would be great if you could give it a thumbs up. Really helps out with the algorithm. And also, if you would leave a comment in the comment section, that would be great too. Stick around for these last 2 tips, and if you feel like this was beneficial for you at all, a subscription to the channel would be great. It doesn't cost you anything, and yeah, let's get back to the video. So tip number 4 is another one of those cliche sayings that I am going to push back on a little bit. You will hear this sort of advice from people saying, like, if you want to be a good photographer, go out and shoot everything. I'm going to push back a little bit on that and say that go out and shoot the things that's going to make you the photographer that you want to be. I am a portrait photographer, and so I took my camera and I made portraits of everybody. When I'm out and I'm doing street photography, a lot of times my street photography photos are portraits of people. When I am, hanging out with my kids, whether I'm shooting hoops with Eli or letting Aria paint my nails, I am making portraits of my kids, snapping photos of people that I'm with. When I have my camera with me, I am snapping photos of people in the warehouse. I am making photos all the time. So if you want to be a photographer who, specializes in portraits, go out and shoot a ton of portraits. If you want to be a photographer that specializes in landscapes, go out and shoot all of the landscapes. I don't waste my time, shooting real estate photos. I don't spend my time, shooting interiors, right? Becky from Becky and Chris really has an eye for that type of stuff, man. She makes a mug on an end table, look amazing with a lamp next to it. She just is that person. She's that type of photographer. I am not, so I don't spend my time, making photos of food. Now, I might snap a photo of a latte that I'm drinking, post it on the Instagram story, but that's just not who I am. I have put in my 10,000 hours of portrait photography. And now I'm working on my 10,000 hours of street photography. And when I'm done with that, I'm going to put in my 10,000 hours of landscape photography, because that's the type of photographer that I want to be. So instead of taking your camera and making photos of everything that you lay your eyes on, take your camera and take photos of all of the things that's going to develop you into the type of photographer that you want to be. And then the last sort of tip that I have about, making good photos and getting to like the destination, is that you have to be real with yourself about the work that you are producing. One of the things that I have become very aware of in my pursuit to become a better YouTuber, a person who makes these YouTube videos, as a person who does street photography, is that everything that I record, every street walk that I go out on, every photo that I make, it's not going to be worth posting to the internet. There is this disconnect from, Instagram and YouTube. I don't want to say social media as a whole, because I don't want to be one of those people, but there absolutely is this disconnect, even for me, of these videos that I watch. Like, right, I watch a James Pappas video, and he goes out and he makes, man, incredible photos, by the way. If you guys aren't following James Pappas, go follow him. I'll put his page, the link to his page, down below. But James Pappas. Another one that I follow is Adrian Sanguinetti, right? I'll link him too. Goes out, just makes incredible videos for one, and then photos, right? And when I watch those videos, I think like, man, these dudes go out and just crush it. But the reality is, for every 5 photo walks I go on and videos I record, maybe one of them will make the channel. And so you have to be real with yourself in the work that you're producing, and give yourself the grace to say, like, this is trash. I am the first person, I will always, especially with my street photography, I will make 1,000 photos and be like, you know what? These are trash. If you guys ever get a chance to find my like street photography Instagram page, you'll see how little I post on that page. And that's just because I think most of the photos that I make, are just trash. And you have to be willing to have that sort of self-reflection. You have to be willing to say, like, you know what? Before I look for the sort of recognition for the work that I'm doing, I got to make sure that the work that I'm producing is worth recognition. And so you're going to make a lot of bad photos. You have to go out and make those bad photos. Listen, if I didn't make the photo of the girl in the coffee shop, there's no way I make photos about the girl at the deli. You know what I mean? Like, you just don't get there without, taking the proper steps. And so you have to be real with yourself. You got to give yourself that grace. And then, yeah, you kind of got to grow from that point. You guys might look at my portrait photography, right? Here's a photo of Allie. Allie and I have probably made together 100,000 photos. But if you go onto my my Instagram right now, you'll notice that you don't see a lot of photos that I have made of Allie. If you go to Allie's Instagram page, you probably notice that you don't see a lot of photos that I've made of Allie. One of the things that Allie and I have kind of come to an understanding of is that if we don't both agree that it's a good photo, we don't post it. And so Allie and I might take 1,000 photos at a session. And what we always tell ourselves is, if we can get one photo, we've accomplished it. And so you got to kind of have that mindset of knowing and being real with yourself about the work that you're producing. So those are my tips. I think that there was 5 of them. But I want to kind of touch on the last one, this kind of bonus one, and it's a cliche saying. You hear it in all things that you do, but there's no substitute for time and experience, right? You can't cheat this hustle. Photography, I always tell people, is like free throws or deadlifting, right? You're not gonna deadlift 500 pounds immediately. You're not gonna become a great free throw shooter without putting in the time. And so, I don't become the photographer that I am today, who can produce the photo, you know, of the girl at the deli, right? I don't become this photographer without first, being the photographer who made the photo of the girl at the coffee shop. I don't, there was a long time between those photos, 6 years. There's 6 years in between those photos. And so that's just time and experience. Time and experience has placed me in situations where, if I'm being 100% honest, I've gotten lucky. In fact, I can point to 3 photos that I actually have. One of the photos that people talk to me about a lot is this photo of this woman at the bus stop. It resonates with people because, for the most part, people have been at a bus stop. They know that feeling of being cold and standing out in the cold and waiting for a bus. I don't know this woman. I didn't place this woman at this bus stop. It just so happens that I had a camera that I knew very well, and I had a focal length that I also knew very well, and I just happened to be walking down the street, and there she was. And so I snapped this picture. Now, I did a little bit of work in the editing. I did a little bit of work, in the composition of it, but for the most part, I got lucky. And there's some other photos that I can point to. This photo of this gentleman crossing the street that other people seem to like. Listen, I'm just crossing Jackson, right? And then all of this sunlight is pouring down this street, and this guy seems really dejected. Again, I just have a camera that I know, a focal length that I know. It did most of the heavy lifting. Now, some work in the editing. There's some work in the composition, right? With the no walk signal. There's a lot happening in this photo that I just happen to be a part of. So, and then this last one that I want to show you guys is this one of this guy walking down the street with his briefcase. Listen, an 85 is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you, especially if you have an expensive 85 1.4. Listen, I got lucky with these, but there's no way to cheat time and experience. And time and experience, in making the photo and editing photo and all of the things that makes a good photo a good photo. Time and experience is gonna do those things for you, and so you can't cheat that. You have to put in that time. You got to practice your free throws. You got to practice your deadlifting form, and so you're never gonna cheat that hustle. And so that's it. Those are my tips. If you guys have more questions about anything that I said in this video, or if you have some further questions about my photography or the images that I produce, put them down in the comment section below. If you found some value in this video, give it a thumbs up. Think about subscribing to the channel, and then I will see you guys in the next video. I'm Jamil. This is a boy named Jamil. Peace.